So Nivi, this is the Kio kit,
This is the Kio kit.
the answer to rural education in Africa.
The answer to turning any classroom, anywhere, rural or urban, into a digital classroom.
Now we really wanted to be on the back seat with this, but it's kind of big, so we might not do that. How heavy is this thing?
This thing weighs 40 kilos, but it packs a punch. It's got lots going on inside.
What's inside?
Well, so inside are 40 tablets. So these are tablets that are ruggedized for your typical African classroom. It withstands a 40 centimeter drop onto concrete.
We won't try that.
It's sealed for water and dust resistance. So we've seen that some of the biggest causes of failure in classrooms of technology is dust, chalkboard dust especially, humidity, and also the charging cables. And so what we decided to do was make something that meets all of those requirements and doesn't require 40 charging cables. There's one cable and all of the tablets charge wirelessly. And then all the lessons inside the brick are under here inside what's called the brick. And all the tablets now connect to that and look at the lessons. And they're divided into learn, play, and grow. In the learn section is everything aligned to KCPE curriculum. In the play section are games. And in the grow section are all the life skills and lessons we want to teach children about responsible citizenship, engagement, human rights, safety, and so on.
Fascinating. What are these things?
These are headphones. So headphone is a simple thing, but we have iterated these almost 50 times to make sure that, obviously they had to be non-porous, over the ear, so children aren't exchanging ear infections. But we also, everything we designed, we want to cut down that time between when the bell rings and when learning begins. So for a teacher to make sure everyone's wearing them on the right side, the length of the cord shouldn't be too long. So we've changed this design so many times just so it's easier and faster to start using in the classroom.
And this is a very rugged looking box, so that's intentional, yeah?
It is.
You withstand all the...
Yeah, it's water resistant, dust resistant. You can lock it, you can put it somewhere.
It has wheels on this side.
It's got wheels on it. Any teacher can drag it into her classroom. And the idea is that she's able to switch it on and start learning in a matter of minutes. It doesn't take an IT expert to set up her computer lab.
Okay. Yeah. Great. So we'll talk about that a little more in depth on the back seat. Nivi Sharma, President BRCK Education, you're on the back seat.
Yeah, nice to be here.
So education is your thing.
Education it's important.
And education for Africa has to reach all the furthest corners, has it not?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of education. It's either for everyone. If you keep it for a small group, then it's not quite working out.
No, it's not. It's when you think of like one of the most powerful tools we can use to level the so-called playing field, I think of education as that, and it needs to reach the students in the most remote and marginalized areas of Africa.
So you've thought of doing many other things in your life, but this seems to be becoming your life's work.
It has. It has. I think over the past 5-6 years, I've realized that this is my calling, and this is what needs to be done, and it's important work.
That gives a lot of clarity, doesn't it? When you realize that this is my life's work, and now I've got to do it.
Yeah, it releases a lot of energy, and it also lets you release a lot of the baggage that you carry around, the whatabouts and what ifs.
The real challenge, though, is the rural areas of Africa. What challenges does education face there?
So one of the places where we really tested our product is a small school out in the middle of Samburu called Kiltamani. And this is, it's a few hours off the main road, in the middle of nowhere, forgotten by the government, forgotten by most people. I guess when you think of now taking a school like that, or taking any school and putting digital education there, it's easy to think, let's give them iPads or let's give them laptops, a device. But before that, we need some infrastructure. You need power. You need a safe place to put them. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, and they all need to be addressed.
So, but digital is the answer to this, is it?
I think
it's the way that we can really do this thing.
Yeah. So I think if you say that education, levels the playing field for society, then digital levels the playing field for education. That even if you don't have a teacher in your classroom, even if you don't have the best furniture and the best supplies and environments, the playing field will never be level, But if you have the same access to that dissemination of information, if you can watch a video, if you can interact with a game, if you can submit a composition, then maybe you stand a better chance than you did without.
So your answer to all of this was the Kio kit. How was that born? Where did it come from?
Well, so 6 years ago, I started an organization called Ilimo, and there we digitized the Kenyan curriculum, KCPE, for revision. And so now, instead of like reading a textbook, you would be able to watch a video, an animation, listen to a song to help you memorize things. And that was great. But school after school we went to would say, okay, but we don't have a computer lab, we don't have laptops, we don't have tablets here. And so then my next move was to say, okay, I ordered 100 cheap tablets in from China and said, here's a preloaded Ilimo tablet for your schools.
Okay.
And they obviously broke down very quickly. And then I ordered 100 expensive tablets from the USA. And those not only did not last very long, but I realized that they weren't built for this market. And so that's how the Kio kit was born.
So this one came from the ground up right here in Kenya?
This came right here in Kenya, sitting in schools like Kiltimani, sitting in schools like Lighthouse in Dagoretti, and spending time with these students and inside the school, looking at their environment, looking at what their teachers' digital literacy is like.
So many person hours were spent just observing and watching and figuring out what the challenge actually is.
Yeah, until the crazy lady with the crazy Muindi lady with curly hair sitting in the back of your classroom became not something that altered your behavior anymore. So, just sitting and watching, asking questions.
So you personally have done a lot of that?
Yeah, the whole team
It's
has.
not stuff you delegated?
No, we do have, we're one of the few companies that has an actual full-time UX expert and a team, UX being user experience. But yeah, everyone on the team, every single person on the team needs to be inside a school at least once a month.
Okay. So is the kit now in several schools around the country?
The kit's in over 100 schools in 11 different countries. There's schools in Mexico and the Solomon Islands using the Kio kit.
Using your kit from Kenya?
Yeah, saying that, we've brought in solutions from Singapore and Hong Kong and Australia and they don't work here. If it works in Africa, it'll work here.
So what next for this kit? How will you scale this thing and how will it pay for itself? What are the plans for it?
We want to, of course, scale distribution of the Kio kit as it is, but we also want to scale distribution of content. That, there's so much potential for digital content out there. And there's a big market for it. So we want to build a marketplace where, current content publishers have access to teachers and access to schools. And also teachers and schools are able to make their own content. A teacher is able to film herself or sell her notes.
Who's your buyer right now? Who buys the kits for these schools?
So private schools sometimes buy it for themselves. Low-income private schools are able to get financing through our partners KCP. Some schools, very low-income schools, have donors that support them. We have governments that are buying the Kio kit outside of Kenya. And also just individuals and PTAs and people who are willing to put money towards education in a meaningful way.
Well, there are many well-off Kenyans out there who I hope are watching this, who support a lot of schools. I know for a fact that they do, and I hope they're listening to you, because this sounds like an excellent answer to the conundrum of how you make it sustainable education for a rural classroom. So, in conclusion then, Nivi, what if you were advising somebody else about how to start a new product in a new setting, what's the key lesson? The key lesson is, build it for the person you're building it for, the people you're building it for. Don't build it for yourself. Don't start from the boardroom down. No, don't build it for yourself and your friends and your board members and your team members. Figure out who that specific person is, how old she is, where she works, what she wears, what car she drives, Figure out as much detail as you can about your user. And really spend time with her or him and ask questions, test your product, fail quickly, throw bad ideas away. There were many bad ideas inside the Kio kit that got thrown away. But be willing to actually listen to what the user wants as opposed to what you want. And are you still doing the listening as it rolls out in different schools? Are you watching the experience to see what you may have got wrong? Yeah. So, and one of the big learnings is that from the Kio kit, the 7-inch is great for little hands.
But we're seeing even secondary schools buying the Kio kit, and they need something bigger. They need a bigger screen, they need a keyboard, they want to create content, they want to take pictures, write compositions, they want to learn how to code. So we're learning lessons, and we're building different versions of the Kio kit to respond to that.
It seems to me when you have a passion for the thing, that you want this thing to happen, and you're willing to spend the time down there, watching, observing, figuring it out, then it will work.
It will. I mean, and you know, when I started Ilimo, I remember there was no plan to make any money. It was simply that if we do it well and we do it properly and we show an impact, we show children are learning better, they're getting better test scores, they're more aware of the environment and people around them, they're better at solving problems. If we do all these things and, you know, make a product that actually works for who we built it for, then, you know, the money and the business, all the others, the what's will fall into place.
Okay. Great talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you want to create a whole new product for a whole new market, how would you approach it? Most of us would try to gather some clever people to generate some clever thoughts in a place detached from the action. What's refreshing about the way Nivi and BRCK Education have done it is this. They went right down to where the user is and observed the situation acutely. They sat and watched, they asked questions, they observed the gaps. Clever thinking is always needed, but it needs to be part of a field exercise. Often the field part of the concept is a minor add-on. Not so for the Kio kit, which comes from the grassroots of education. Another key ingredient, huge passion for ending the plight of the user. Passion that leads to clear purpose. Nivi Sharma has that in spades. That's why we had her on the back seat. See you next time for another ride around Nairobi.